warm, positive vibrations. This is Body Culinary, aka Kwasapeacefull Eating, and I'm up very early, as per usual. This is the time when there's usually the 5 a.m. Uh, community class, a 5 a.m. class workout, African dance and sculpt. And this morning, I'm on a different vibe, and I'm sitting and I contemplate often, which is why I love the early morning hours so much, because it is a time of day when you can really tap into your own divine onboard intelligence, right? Your own link to source, if you will, in the most practical sense. So this morning, I was thinking of early, way before the 5 a.m. workout, thinking of what's needed. Again, on our energy levels, our motivation to see if we're being depleted, and if we're depleted, are we disassociated? Are we lost in the movie screen of our mind? Are we lost in the scrolling on the internet? Uh, it can perhaps be helpful to notice what energizes us, what motivates us in particular to get into action around the things that we say are important to us, our core values, are the things that we'd like to achieve while we're out here in a human suit on planet Earth. The early morning hours can also be a really great time to tune in to how we are feeling, not in a just more superficial sense, but how we are feeling in our bodies, how we feel or feeling about ourselves. So, for example, in the morning when I'm moving around and I catch my reflection, I often reflect on my internal dialogue, which I think is a really healthy and important practice, something that gets strengthened. I've noticed it's gotten strengthened over time. So I notice my internal dialogue is I like myself, I like my hair, I like my skin, and I enjoy them. So one of the ways I can tap into that is to notice the smile on my face as I catch my own real raw reflection. In contrast to being out here on the internet, where a lot of our interactions I've observed are primarily, pretty much all ego-based. The ego does have a purpose. I remember many years ago, I didn't totally understand what the ego is, and now I have my own litmus test, my own clear distinction of what the ego is and how important it is to understand. So the context, right? Because we could all assume we're saying the same thing with the same meaning, but not. The context in which I'm referring to the ego is that part of our computer that is very fear-based. It is very fear-based. And I notice a lot of this is on automatic pilot. A lot of this is built into our wiring as a species. So we may not think that a lot of the entertainment is fear based because we're laughing, smiling. How can it be fear based? And if it's fear based, um, is it having any negative consequences? Is it perhaps affecting a lot of my unconscious behaviors, in particular when it comes to consuming nervously, being anxiety ridden as we are eating foods? I would say definitely 1000%. I would even say that I notice these patterns, I'm an observer of patterns. I noticed this pattern even as a child. Um, as a child, when we had a big TV that everybody usually would watch, one TV, the whole family had one big TV and a big wooden frame with a platform. And when the TV went off at a certain hour, there would be these colors and lines that would go across the screen. So that meant there was no more television programming. You had to wait until the next day to see whatever and it was a much more limited range of channels that you could view. And so I remember, culturally, we can be very loud, very expressive, and so everyone between grandchildren, aunties, nieces, cousins, grandparents, the decibel, the voice level was so high. It could be laughing, talking, a lot of soul music, um, playing, arguing. The voice level, the decibel was so loud, and it's not usually until around when the television went off at a certain hour, you would hear that beep and see the colors across the screen. And if we had fallen asleep, I would wake up or glance up at the TV and see that there was no more television programming. They finished our broadcasting. And so I remember thinking as a child about the amount of noise that was on TV. I always wondered, right, it's actually kind of grating on the nerves, the amount of noise, and sometimes I just wish for quiet. Also, watching the Brady Bunch as a child, I remember them jumping into their station wagon and going to visit the Grand Canyon. And I remember thinking, we have a station wagon. Why don't we just all pile in and go to the Grand Canyon to see these like beautiful sights? But that wasn't really on. That was not really. That wasn't what was on the radar. So these are many things that I contemplate. Um, what is driving a lot of our unconscious behaviors, in particular, the behaviors that cause us to be very self-sabotaging to our vessel, right? As someone that's had a lot of acne, I was eating a lot of things that cause the acne, right? My addiction to potato chips and junk food that I picked up as a child that I now can identify as self-soothing, right? It can be really helpful to organize a lot of these things in our brain a certain kind of way so it doesn't feel like we're struggling. For folks, especially women with weight loss, is a lot of trying, and I have to, and I got to, which is reminiscent of the someone I was raised very religiously, of begging and pleading in the church, right? The tone of it. I watched these patterns as a child, and for all the begging and the pleading and God please and Jesus please, I never saw the results pan out. It's not to make anybody's religion or beliefs right or wrong. This is from one woman's experience. For the amount of prayer and supplication and fasting, I never saw the results in terms of physical health and prosperity. It never meted out. It never seemed to give what it was supposed to have gave. I didn't see all of the health. I didn't see all the prosperity. It did not equate to the amount of begging, pleading, um, prayer, and fasting, supposed fasting. And so now, as an adult with a bit of life experience and a larger frame of reference, I can see what worked, what didn't work, what produced results, and what did not produce results. And again, with some frame of reference and some with maturity, I can observe a lot of those things without making those adults, without making them um, wrong or bad. I can just assess. I can assess and I have discernment from firsthand experience. And I think this is really important as a principle in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And it doesn't appear that we are, based on results, that we're really encouraged to be very self reflective in terms of what works and what doesn't work. In particular, around these screens, that TV being on all day and then going off boo to the sound. Okay, tomorrow we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. The noise, the confusion, and I have clearly noticed the pattern of the very nature of engaging in the screen is it fosters disassociation. And so I realized, well, I thought I had gotten rid of the TV as a young woman. I was like, oof, got rid of that noise and that distraction of the TV. Then when the cell phones, I remember the little flip phones, and then as more models came out with, the flat screen and the Blackberries and then the iPhones, I was like, wow, the TV is right back again. And now the TV is handheld and these personal devices. Now with the internet is on the train in New York City. Everyone is engaged, whether on the platform or on the train. We're trying to get a signal to plug in. And a lot of this plugging in, I think the very nature of it, most of it is the foundation, sets the tone. It keeps solidified, it keeps us grounded in disassociation. When I say disassociation, the context that I mean disassociation is escapism, wanting to escape from memories, trauma, um, trauma that is being signaled, negative memories that are being triggered through the different visuals that we're taking in, frustration, fears, the basic fears, the 6 basic fears. Let's say forgive me this morning, I usually forget one. Fear of death, fear of poverty, fear of old age, fear of loss of love, or never finding love, fear of illness, and fear of criticism. Those are the 6 basic fears, and you're constantly being triggered by these make-believe and scripted narratives that are presented to us and are being broadcast and that we are ingesting in one direction as a receiving unit, right? Kind of like this transmitter. We have a receiver and a transmitter. So these messages, stories, um, creative with all of the special effects are being broadcast. Messages and instructions to the brain are being broadcast one way, and so we are receiving, and we are usually sitting fixated, receiving without accepting these stories without uh, a lot of discernment because we learn or we respond to stories and meanings. It's a way to preserve lessons, culture, but often these stories are orchestrated, scripted, and manipulated by um, whoever the writer is, whoever's funding the printing of the books or revising them. So these are some pretty basic things that I think about how the disassociation that is fostered through engaging with these screens, how it is driving, how if we are to reverse engineer and to backtrack, how a lot of what we're ingesting is not necessarily, it's not really helping us to process in a healthy way trauma. It is not really it is not really fostering a language of personal accountability and responsibility. Usually it is fostering the fear and wanting to place the fear somewhere to make sense of the fear of how our situations have turned out as they have. A lot of the dialogue that is coming through is fostering, is very seducing us to merely comfort, right? Immediate comfort and mental, emotional pain, though that does not equate to processing, putting into a context, and personal accountability and responsibility, and confronting uncomfortable thoughts and the areas we will likely have to get uncomfortable in order to experience change and transformation. So all that in a nutshell, a long-winded way, not a long-winded way, but a way to articulate and to put into context how these screens, if we don't take the time to curate what is coming through, a lot of the modern day solutions can actually be fostering more problems than the supposed solution. And it's a system, it's a structure. It's simple and it is quite effective. And I haven't found that without a lot of intentional awareness and cultivating discernment, uh, a lot of the interaction with these TV screens have us in narratives that drive a lot of our fears and self-sabotaging behaviors. So, solutions, what are practical solutions that are sustainable when it comes to weight loss? And when I am referring to weight loss, um, the physical body carrying excess weight as someone that comes from a family pattern of morbid obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and the comorbidities that go with unhealthy adipose tissue. And you can be slim and built and still have a lot of autoimmune and other diseases going on. But a lot of our lifestyle is contributing, and a lot of what we're taking in and digesting is reinforcing a lot of the fright and fear that is driving behaviors that has a self-sabotage, which doesn't make anything better. It weakens us, right? And so it has us engage in behaviors that really compromise our health, our reproductive organs. We put them in harm's way. That's the kicker. It's putting ourselves in harm's way in terms of what we are um, ingesting and the behaviors that we are engaging in willingly through not really having a basic comprehension of how our psyche is being stimulated. And so even sometimes engaging with these screens, and often now it's common to see the most callous behaviors, the most triggered behaviors coming through the keyboard as folks express from a place of callousness, I think anxiety, cruelty, and it's not one that is self reflective. It is definitely not one that is healthy, though it is supposedly entertaining. So it can perhaps really be beneficial for us to really contemplate how we are ingesting, um, what our interaction is with this new form of TV. But I can definitely tell you a distinct pattern is the very nature of these screens is disassociation, right? Disassociation doesn't have you reflect on why am I putting myself in harm's way? Why am I eating more than I need to? Why did I eat? But they gave me a lot of acne, which also was demonstrating that was really negatively taxing and affecting my organs. And then it's garden slash nature therapy, being that we are triggered as a species through our senses. If you're going to be triggered, why not be triggered in reverse? Be triggered into calm, be triggered into self reflection. That is the very nature of what plants and nature, what they do. They trigger us into calm and relaxation. So, all that to say, it takes a lot. It takes a lot in a good way because it's worth it, right? It's leverage. You really get a lot back for your investment. It is really up to us, right? Our lives are our responsibility to discern what works, what provides results that are beneficial, what doesn't. And this is something that we will have to choose to engage in. There is no force. So I'm inviting you all to contemplate. Let me know respectfully what your thoughts are in the comment section. We will be getting our movement practice on periodically, seasonally, quarterly, regularly. When I assess every aspect of life, I like to look at what produces results and what doesn't. Reciprocal relationships and interactions are super duper important. I'm inviting you to create a great day on purpose simply because you said so. You can find Body Culinary on TikTok um, and Instagram. Subscribe, share. I invite you to replay these videos to create support for yourself as you're decluttering, as you're washing your fruits and vegetables. Um, if you're interested in whole, fresh living foods and fitness, you can find the mentality of, what I discuss and the clarity that I've come to as someone that was raised as a junk food junkie, a self um, for that, and myself and my family for many decades and many years as a lifestyle. And it can be very important. I think it's very important to have things to look forward to have treats to look forward to when you're looking to upgrade your consumption patterns, how you're eating, so you don't feel like there's nothing to eat. It will likely require us to reorganize how we're thinking about food, right? Many of us panic, we think there's nothing that is delicious or soothing to look forward to. So it can help get that anxiety off the table. So that's raw vegan cakes. There's also the cocoon. That retreat is online, and there is a body recomposition masterclass, which is basically how to lose weight, unhealthy weight, without losing muscle. So getting clarity on these things can be really, really helpful. If you're interested in coaching, I conduct live coaching on, and there's also education as a lifestyle on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there's a 5 a.m. workout at this time currently for women at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursdays. Friday, I have a community class. So if I find something is not producing results, then I will shift it. So create anything on purpose. I will see you soon. Like, comment, respectfully, and subscribe.